welcome back to Duane and Nidia's Food, Travel, and Fun. And I'm Duane, and I am back in the kitchen. So tonight I'm going to make for you with this big assortment of ingredients that I have here. An old favorite that I haven't made in years, and I really don't know why, because I love it. And we had gone to a restaurant recently that just reminded me of how much I love it, and that was the old grist mill over in Seekonk, Mass. And here we are. I am going to make my version of marinated mushrooms. I really love the way they do it, and mine is hopefully similar, although I'm sure it doesn't match theirs at all. But I do. I have a lot of ingredients. This really comes from a very old recipe that was shared online years ago, and I happened to find it, tried it, and I was just in love with it. And I'll quickly go over it. I mean, it's got red wine, olive oils, a bunch of onion. I use this I'm making 3 pounds of marinated mushrooms. So I've got 3 small onions here, about 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar, 1/3 of a cup of dried parsley, and you can use about 6 cloves of garlic. And I use our jarred garlic. So, and it's already minced, and it's great. Mustard, dry mustard, that's about a tablespoon of dry mustard, a tablespoon of salt, and I love my red Korean pepper flakes, so I've included that in my recipe. And normally this should really be done with button mushrooms, the real little guys, and you put them in whole and they come out beautifully, but we did an online order and it was substituted, and we got stuffing mushrooms. So I'm going to just chop these guys up small into whatever it takes to make little mushrooms out of them, and we're going to do it up that way. It'll work just fine. I have actually used larger mushrooms that I've cut up for this in the past, so I know it works just fine. You know, the preference is a nice whole little button white mushroom, which you can get anywhere. They just didn't have them in stock. So here we go. I'm going to prep all these mushrooms, dice them all up. I've got everything else ready to go, as you can see. It cooks on the stove for about 10-12 minutes, not very long. And then I'm putting them all into mason jars so that I can store them long term. They won't have to be refrigerated. But if you don't do it with the jarring technique and you just put them into a container, it'll last you a couple of weeks, but you're going to want to keep it in the fridge. So I like to eat it cold, but for storage purposes, they can sit on the shelf. And when I'm finishing up a jar, which usually doesn't take me very long, a 16-ounce jar is really 4 servings. For me, it's lucky if it's 2 servings. And I'll go through them fairly quick. I might have to keep 2 jars cold all the time just to be on the safe side. So hopefully I got a bunch of jars here, and I will show you the process in a few minutes. Let me get these mushrooms going, and I'll be back. Okay, everyone. So here I'm boiling lids because I'm doing a canning process. I'm going to actually store mine in mason jars so that I can have a lot longer storage period. And I boil the lids for at least 10 minutes or so, and I do a process where some people like to actually boil the jars themselves, but I don't like to do that. I prefer to put them in the oven at a 200-degree oven, and I let them go for about 10 minutes or so at least. And here you can see I've put them inside the oven, and they're going, it's set to 200, letting them run. They're going to stay in there. I think they end up staying in this case for about 20 minutes or so, which is really not a problem. You have to at least do 10 minutes to make sure you sterilize. But it's nice, they come out nice and dry, you don't worry about it, and that's it. Basically, that is the process before we wrap up getting back into putting the mushrooms together. And what I will do is I will show you the canning process at the very end of this video. So as you can see, I've got this nice, really big, healthy bowl of cleaned mushrooms, and I wanted to talk about it briefly, but it's because I feel it's a little bit important anyways. So I've been using a cloth to actually, just a dish towel to wipe them clean. There is a thing called a mushroom brush, and there's even a mushroom glove that you wipe the mushrooms off any dirt, and you get them nice and white and clean. And the reason you do that is because if you don't want to wash them because they're going to soak up a lot of water. And we're about to put them into, some marinade. And so we don't want them to soak anything prior to actually going into the marinade. All you want them to do is soak up the juices and seasonings that you put in for the marinade. Also, as a rule, people use mushroom brushes because mushrooms will brown very quickly if you wash them and then actually try to use them. So as a rule, always just either brush them. If you don't have a brush, a nice fairly rough dishcloth does a great job of it. So let me get these chopped down to size, and all during this time I've let my mason jars just cook away and boil so they are nice and sterile. I'm going to take them out as soon as I'm done chopping this up, and I start the process of cooking to give them a little time to cool so that I can actually handle them when I need to. And that's really it. So I will be back in a minute. I just wanted to show you that really quick. This is 3 times the normal size batch. A normal batch is about 1 pound of mushrooms. I got 3 pounds here. So, you can do this at a much smaller scale. Everything scales right down. So instead of 3/4 of a cup of red wine vinegar, you're only gonna have a 1/4 cup. So, and all the other ingredients scale down as well. So let me chop this up and I'll be back in a sec.
And here is Duane chopping all of those mushrooms. Oh wow, lots and lots of mushrooms. They sent us the wrong kind. They sent us the huge stuffing kind, so there was a lot of cutting to do. Pro tip, if you're going to try this recipe, if you're going to make the marinated mushrooms, get the small button mushrooms and just try a few pounds at a time, and that should be more than enough. Anyway, we've spared the time it would take to watch you see exactly how long it took to do all this cutting.
I am about to start cooking these mushrooms. My lids are all sterilized, my jars are sterilized, so all that's ready to go. I'll show that in a sec. Let me bring this up. So you're going to add all the ingredients except for the mushrooms and bring it to a boil. So let me start this up. And I'll start with the wine, vinegar, and the oil. Add in my onions, my brown sugar, come on sugar, there we go, dried mustard, tablespoon, teaspoon of my pepper flake, and that is completely optional. You can do this recipe with no pepper whatsoever. A tablespoon of salt, the minced garlic, which is really about 6 cloves for this, and dried parsley, which is about 1/3 of a cup. So you mix all these ingredients together, let them come to a boil. Once this boils, I'm actually going to let it go for a second, and then I'll add in the mushrooms, and we'll go from there. So we'll be back in a minute. So as you can see, she's boiling away quite nicely. I'm about to add in the mushrooms. Let me set this over here. And just so you know, you can adjust this to your liking as well, which I definitely recommend. I tasted it. I wanted a little bit more acid to it, so I did. I added in some extra vinegar in there. Let me see if I get me in there. That would be kind of good. There we go. I'm back in. And now I'm going to add in these mushrooms carefully. I don't want them all just falling out of this giant pan here. And I really hope they fit nicely, because it is seems like a tight fit. That's okay, as long as they get in the pot. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to mix these up a little bit. Get my holder here. Just start getting them all covered, and then I'll add the rest of the mushrooms in. They're covering up nicely. They look really, there we go. That's beautiful. Now hold on, I can grab my thing. Give you a nice little look right there. See, there they go. And I will continue putting in the rest. You do stir this occasionally. It's only going to go for about 12 minutes tops. We're going to stir it just a couple of times, just to make sure everything's getting coated nicely. You don't want to stir it too much. We're not trying to break the mushrooms up at all. And that's why I'm using my little silicone spatula here, because it's pretty gentle. But I want to make sure everything gets at least this starter coat on it. And then the mushrooms are going to release liquid as they cook down. So I'm going to cover this in a sec. We're going to let it cook down and I'll show you. So if you notice right now, this pan is looking at least, 3/4 full. Look, it's only right there. The spatula barely even goes down in there. Let's cover this up. And we'll be back in a few minutes and we'll see how much they've cooked down and see what's happening. All right, we are back again. And I'm going to show you nice and close. I'm going to take the camera over here. And there you go. You can see, look, it's gone down quite a bit. The liquid level has come right up because it's being released out of the mushrooms now. We're a little bit past halfway on the cook time, which about 7 or 8 minutes in. I am definitely going to let it go for at least another 6 or 7 minutes. So, but I wanted to give you a little quick view where it's at. Get the cover back on, and I am cooking on a medium to medium high heat on this. So we'll set it for another, I'm gonna say give it another 6. So it's gonna end up cooking around 14 minutes. And there you go. It should be all set then and ready to go into the jar. This timer is about to end, and that's that. All right, let's take a nice little look at that. I'm going to bring the camera over so you can see where she finishes off. And as you can see, she's cooked right down. The water level is all the way even with all the mushrooms. There is a nice amount in here. I'm turning it off right now. She's ready. Looking great. They took on that nice little color. You can see they're getting that nice mushroomy color, and yep, they took on the flavor a bit. They have that nice marinated flavor. So there we go. I will just gonna let this cool for just a minute or so, and then I will start the canning process. So I'm just gonna show you how I do 1 or 2 of these. I got my nice wide funnel top, and I pour them in. That funnel helps keep that edge nice and clean. Make sure you get enough liquid to keep the mushrooms covered as you fill it. Make sure it's plenty hot right now too, so there we go. And that is a perfect prepped jar. Put that into the next one. I'll bring that nice and close. See, I'm just about a 1/2 inch below. And then I'm going to take my sterilized lids. I'm going to pop one lid on. I'm going to, not sure you can see it too well. I'm going to put this on there snug, but not totally snugged. I'm going to flip it upside down. That helps ensure that it sterilizes the lid properly. Back up, one last little tug, set that aside and on to the next jar. And it's a rinse and repeat. Do it until you run out of mushrooms or run out of jars. If I run out of jars, I'm just gonna put any leftovers into just a nice container and eat them very quickly over the next day or 2. I'll have plenty of time. I got 2 weeks to really finish them off there. I think I have more than enough jars here. let's see. I might have a little bit too much mushroom on that one. So let me take a little bit out of this very hot jar. There we go. Oh, that's looking really good now. It's filled the right amount. Grab another nice lid. Set that down. Get a clean lid. Tighten up the ring. Just a little tight. Double check. No leak. Nice seal. Bring it back. One last snug. Put it aside. So I got these jars sitting aside right here like this. They're gonna stay there and cool off on their own until I start to hear the little dimples in the center pop down. When you start hearing it pop down, you know that that's vacuum sealing itself inside the jar, and you are good to go. When they're nice and cool, I'll stick what I need in the fridge, the rest I'll shelf, and that's the end of that. So there you go. These are Duane's marinated mushrooms from an old recipe that's been out there for a long time that others have used. I've used it, it's been a long time, but I love it. Thank you for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining me in my kitchen, and Nidia's kitchen, of course, as well. And until next time, like, subscribe, tell your friends, and I'll see you soon. Thanks. Bye.
And here you have it. The final product, Duane's marinated mushrooms.